Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates. Today I'm sitting down with my good friend and a man that I have a ton of respect with, Ben Fredricks. How you doing, man?
Great, RJ. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, man. So Ben and I, we've been together in Investor Fuel. We both were members of that mastermind, and we've gotten to know each other over the years. For the people that don't know who you are, take a quick second, kind of briefly introduce yourself and tell them what it is that you do in real estate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, our company is Odell Barnes REO, and our primary focus is buying deals in bulk from banks and auction. And then we tend to redistribute those to investors around the country, but we also deal a lot in owner financing, just creating cash flow and notes that we can sell and retain. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what we do.
So I know one night at Investor Fuel, Salt Lake City, you and I had a couple of drinks, and I got to know your story. It's a really cool story. So share that with our listeners. How did you get started with Odell and all of your background with getting in that niche in real estate investing?
Yeah, it's really kind of weird. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, and it came all from a Craigslist ad. So it was really just me putting out into the universe what I wanted. I've been working in financial services for almost a decade, and I was so sick of it. It was just not my passion at all. And so I wanted to get back into real estate like I was. And, I just started seeing, all right, what can I start to syndicate? I knew people with money, and I knew there were deals in the market. So I just started, putting it out there, and I made a post on Craigslist of all places. And I got a call, and you know how Craigslist calls can go. Sometimes they can be a little weird. And so I got this call, and it said, my name's Odell Barnes. This might be the greatest call you ever got. And I just started dying laughing. I was like, okay, sure. How'd you get my phone number? So he told me Craigslist. I was like, okay. So he just started talking, and I started learning about what he did. And it blew my mind. I never knew that was a thing, like buying deals in bulk and, getting these tremendous discounts from auction companies and banks. So I just kind of positioned myself as a resource to him. And I think that's what a lot of good young investors can learn from, is just be a resource to somebody that's doing what you're doing,
Right.
find a way to help them. And it can really springboard you into something cool. So that's essentially what happened for me.
So when you say you position yourself as a resource, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I really just had a conversation with him and to learn more about his business and ask what are some of the problems and challenges he has in the business. And he would tell me things, and I'd say, okay, if I can find a way to help you with those things, would that be of value to you? He's like, absolutely. So for him, it was, more of the marketing piece. He had the acquisitions piece down. It was the disposition and how do I get my deals out to the marketplace and turn them quicker. So he had a great network, but that network can always be bigger. And that's really all I focused on in the beginning. And then my expertise and my financial background really gave a lot of insights for owner finance and ways that we could strengthen that. So that was it, man. I mean, it wasn't any, I'm not the smartest guy in the universe. It wasn't like I came up with some great new idea. It was just saying, all right, can I find little ways to help you that you find valuable and will be good for your business? And then in turn, reciprocity is going to happen,
Right.
So, and I got helped in just in good turn.
What about the phone call kind of instilled some sort of trust in you to take that leap of faith to even put any time or energy into working with Odell?
Yeah, I think initially, right, like I said with Craigslist, it's a grain of salt. Like, okay,
Right.
sure, you're whatever. But once I did some research, he'd been on Nightline, he'd been on all these different shows. It was a legitimate person. So, and then I just called back and said, hey, where are you? And he happened to have a beach house in my area of Florida. And he's like, I'm at my beach house. I was like, that's literally up the road from me. Can we go grab a drink and talk a little bit more? He's like, sure. So and then the relationship just developed from there. So like literally not even 2 weeks later, I was going to his other house in South Carolina. And my wife thought I was nuts, but I was like, this could be something. And
Right.
almost 4 years later, here we are. So.
Well, you know what? As I interview people and I see partnerships that have developed, I see that it takes a bit of a leap of faith. You know, you have to have this like intuition that, hey, this could be my moment that changes the course of my career or my life. And sometimes, you know, I see people that are closed off to that. They're kind of skeptical about everything. You know, like you said, you know, hey, this is a call from Craigslist. You know how calls from Craigslist go. And also the way he introduced himself, like this could be the greatest phone call of your life. You know, it's kind of like, okay, what are you, a Nigerian prince? Like you're going to wire me $5 million? Like, yeah, I can see how you could have easily just skimmed over that. But the thing about it is Odell would have just kept calling until he found somebody else to fill that position. So, you know, you go to South Carolina, you go to a second house. Where does the relationship kind of go from there? And how did y'all develop where y'all are today?
Yeah. So basically at that point, he saw a possible in for me. So basically he said, you know, what you ought to do is go back and get your mortgage license. And I work with a lot of investors that you could help with their owner financing. That was the area that would be of huge benefit to him, because if he could get that locked down where everybody's using the same person, they're creating a very similar style note that they can sell and move into the marketplace, they can then bring that money back to him to buy more property. So it was a huge benefit.
Right.
So that's essentially where it started. I started going to note conferences and learning, you know, just to follow the investors, see what they were doing. But I would go to those conferences instead of being just a vendor that would sit at his table, you know, waiting for people to come by while everybody was in the session. I'd go into that session and I'd be in the back just scribbling furiously, learning everything. It was like free education, you know, other than what I had to pay to be there. But that was where it began to snowball. And I learned these things and I'm like, you know, there's no reason I can't be doing this. Like these people aren't any smarter than me, which is not an insult to them. It's just that, you know, they're people that knew something I didn't. And so once I figured that out, I was able to say, all right, let me figure out a way to implement this and create my own business out of it. And we built up such a relationship and friendship that it became a partnership. So
essentially you're buying properties in bulk from banks, and then you're dispoing them out to investors. And then are you offering like RMLO services to them when they want to owner finance?
Great question. So initially I was doing all of that, which is like too many cooks in the kitchen. It becomes very difficult, you know, so you start getting different systems in your business, and eventually as entrepreneurs, you will start to get overwhelmed. There's just too much going on. And I was working, you know, like the Beatles, I'm working 8 days a week, essentially, you know, and you can only do that for so long. So I was in like a year-long search to find somebody, you know, to basically take over the MLO piece for me. And I found an awesome person, Russ O'Donnell. So, and he handles all that stuff for us now. So I was just able to pass that off and say, hey, you're gonna be our guy. Just get this done for us, and that's it. So, yeah, it was a process to get through that. And a lot of times, I think that's where some people will get stuck as investors, is they want to do everything themselves, and you just can't do it. Not to be successful, you only go so far doing everything by yourself.
So are you primarily focused on the dispositions at this point in time?
Well, yeah, pretty much. So we have a whole team now. So it's you know, my job now is just basically to figure out ways that we can improve. So, you know, where I was doing a lot of the dispositions myself, now we have sales team. So my job is to make them better at their job. My job is to find ways to get more deals. It's to find ways to get them through the system faster and more efficiently. So, you know, it's transition to where, you know, you try to become the puppeteer, so to speak.
So I know you're big into reading and, you know, personal growth and things along those mindset growth and things along those lines. Do y'all adapt from the traction EOS implementation? Do y'all do that at all in your company?
No, I spent a lot of time studying guys that do different entrepreneurial work. So not necessarily only real estate. So
Right.
people like Andy Frisella, Ed Milet. I've spent a lot of time learning from a great real estate guy, Mark Evans, and just trying to figure out, okay, because he's very big on, magician versus mule. Like, how can I stop being the cart carrying mule and be the guy that is just the magician behind all of it? So yeah, man, I'm constantly learning. Personal development is like my big thing. I spend so much time doing it because I've got a lot of internal shit to get out, that's just been built up over the years, and it's a work in progress always.
Well, if you get anything out of today's episode, go way back in the archives, and I have an interview with Mark Evans, DM.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most underrated episodes that I've ever done. And full transparency, now that I've been doing this for a while, it was also one of the hardest interviews that I've ever done because he's such a high-level thinker.
Yeah.
I was literally struggling with coming up with questions because he was giving all of the answers already. And I'm like, I don't know what else to ask this guy. But looking back at it, it was an epic interview. So if you're interested in learning about Mark Evans, go back and listen to that. You brought up Andy Frisella. I know you've done the 75 hard. I think you're actually currently doing it for a second time, right? And I bring this up because I think this is important for people to understand, like, who you are as a person and how that translates to your success as an entrepreneur. Why did that resonate with you? I think every time I talk to you, you bring up Andy and the difference he's made with you and in your life and in your career. Why is that so important to you?
Yeah, I could tell you without any hesitation that the first time I heard the MFCEO project, I heard him. The first episode I listened to was with him and Sean Whalen.
Yeah.
And I absolutely hated those guys. Like, I turned it off halfway through. I was so annoyed. I was like, these guys are arrogant assholes. I was like, this is something, I just don't get it. And then I'll never forget it. I was actually out walking my dogs, and I had it in my mind that, like, all right, I need to be doing something different. At the time, I was almost 40 years old. I had a new daughter, and I was just like, man, I need a big change in my life. And then I was like, man, maybe this is the exact shit I need to be listening to. Maybe that's the problem.
Yep.
So I went back and I listened to it, and I told Sean Whalen this when he came out to Investor Fuel. I was like, man, first time I heard you, I was like, man, I thought you were such a dick. And he started laughing, and he's like, yeah, I get that a lot. I go, but then I told him, I was like, man, it was such what I needed to hear, because once I started diving into that, I was like, man, all this stuff is true, and it was pissing me off because it was true. It was true about myself. So, and sometimes the truth hurts. It's hard to take.
Yep.
So, and then the 75 hard piece, that came deeper into it, but I knew my self-discipline wasn't where it needed to be. So, and if I was going to grow my business, my discipline needed to get far more on point to be able to do it, to resonate that with my team, but also myself, to keep promises to myself.
Yeah. You bring up Sean Whalen, and, he has the book, How to Make Shit Happen, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing that I hear people say about that book more than anything is it's such a simple book.
Yes.
It's so simple. It's so easy. It's just such an easy read. He doesn't even have page numbers because it's such a short book, Yeah. And I know he bitches and moans about this all the time when people, say that. But after I read that book, I was like, you know what? This is just another way of people passing on their own issues. Oh, it's so simple. Well, if it's so simple, why aren't you doing it?
Right.
You're not living it, and that's why that book made such an impact on me after reading it. I read it in probably 45 minutes. And could I sit there and say that's a simple read? Sure, yeah, but it punched me right in the mouth and made me realize, like, hey, this is why you're having certain issues with your career or with your business or with your personal life, because you're not doing these things. And he breaks it down into the core four. It's four simple things. And so that's one of the things that stood out to me the most about you, man, just spending time and seeing how you took information that's readily available and as simple or as sometimes off-putting, like you said,
Yeah.
arrogance, but it was coming from a place of truth. And
Yes.
so sometimes we just blame it on, okay, I don't like that guy because he's arrogant. But in all reality, he's just slapping you in the face and saying, why aren't you doing this? And seeing how you have implemented those things and held yourself accountable, I think that makes a huge difference for you as an entrepreneur from other people. I've seen you've been able to go out and you're one of the few people that I know that openly came out and said, I failed at the 75 hard way into it. With the first time you did it, when did
Yeah.
you fail at it?
Yeah. The first time I failed was at like 43 days.
Right. Most people would not have admitted it, right?
Yeah.
They would have just kept going and say, hey, I did the 75 hard. But you came out and you told everybody on social media, like, hey, I failed today. I had a misstep, and that's the whole point behind it is to actually be accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. So outside that, are there, before I go back into your actual business and your career, any other final thoughts about kind of the mindset and holding yourself accountable and things along those lines?
Yeah, I would encourage anybody, if you've not done 75 hard, to do it, because you're so right, man. I mean, if you break the promises you keep to yourself, like, how are you ever going to make it? Like, it's not going to happen. So it actually took me about 143 days to finish 75 hard. I screwed it up twice. So, the second time I missed a progress picture while I was traveling, just a picture. That's it.
Wow.
And I was, again, I was like another 90 days in. And I went to my wife and I said, I fell asleep last night. And as soon as I woke up, I knew I missed it. And she's like, well, who's going to know? I was like, I'll know.
Yeah.
I will know. And I've lived my entire life like that, 30 plus years, breaking promises to myself, quitting on stuff. And I was just like, I'm not doing it anymore. So if that's the ultimate program, if you've been somebody that breaks promises to yourself, I challenge you to do 75 hard, because it is an eye opener in the person you can become.
Well, and why is that important as an entrepreneur? Well, when you break it down, we all set goals for ourselves. Let's talk about just marketing, right? Everybody wants to, when you go to Investor Fuel, what does everybody want to talk about? The new marketing. What list are you using? SMS, RVMs, cold calling, direct mail. Everybody wants to figure this out.
Yeah.
So we all set KPIs for ourselves. And then if you're analyzing your KPIs, you're setting goals for yourself. Like, I need to send X amount of text messages to get X amount of leads, they get X amount of appointments, they get X amount of contracts, they get X amount of closings, right? These are typical KPIs. And if you sit there and say, let's just use a round number, 5,000 text messages a week. If you start breaking promises to yourself, it can be very easy to be like, hey, you know what? It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. I'm ready to go home. Team's already leaving, and we sent 4,500. Maybe nobody works over the weekend. You could break that promise to yourself. The goal that you have, where it's like, hey, we have to send 5,000 text messages to hit all of the other metrics. And when you start breaking those promises, and what you'll end up realizing is it's not just in one situation. It's pretty much throughout your whole company. You just start breaking promises to yourself across the board. That's why everybody jokes, like, now the thing in social media is New Year's resolutions or your goals for 2020. And then half the people are like, why are you even making goals? It's going to be over with in February or March. You're only going to have these goals for January. So are those some of the things that you feel like 75 hard really made a difference for you and kind of changed how you analyze and how you handle yourself within your company?
Yeah, I mean, it breaks it down simply, right? There's only so many tasks that you have to do to get through a day. They're not easy tasks, not by any stretch. But if you can do those, you can begin to implement that into your business, saying, okay, I don't need to get this giant checklist of things done in order to have a win today. What are the most important things I need to get done in order to have a win today? And you're so right, man. It becomes a slippery slope. If you start breaking those promises to yourself, to your, the people that you're leading and, all that, it just begins to trickle and open up a big can of worms that might be hard to fix. quite frankly.
So you inspired me to do a 75 hard for titanium investments.
Oh, nice.
So I think you did a 75 hard for your company, right?
My partner and I are both doing it. Yeah.
So, but originally it was like all of your employees had like 5 things that they had to do every day, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So 5 critical tasks. Yep.
And that was met with a lot of tension, wasn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So before it was met with a lot of tension, Ben told me about this, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And like I said at the beginning, I have a ton of respect for Ben. And so I was like, man, if Ben's doing this and I see the impact the 75 hard's making on him, I made a list of what I thought were 5 very simple things that everybody had to do every single day. And it excuse me, it basically led to a bunch of people not working at Titanium anymore.
Yeah.
It fully changed the course of our company. And what at first felt like, oh my goodness, like I'm getting rid of my entire team because they can't do these simple tasks. But that's what made me realize I had the wrong team.
Yeah.
Like if I ask you to do 5 simple things that I feel like are the 5 most important things that you can do in a day, and on day 1 you did 2 of the 5, and then on day 2 you do 0 of 5, I mean, that made me realize right there, like, hey, I don't have the right team around me. Yeah. And so thank you for changing the course of Titanium Investments.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad that helped.
Yeah, well, it you know what, it was eye-opening to see how it was received. It was the accountability. It was right off the bat. And so I know you had some pushback with that. How's it going now with you and Odell? Are y'all both doing the 75 hard, or did you kind of change it to specifically for the business?
Yeah, so it's me and my other partner, John. We're doing 75 hard together. So that's the reason I'm doing round 2 is he's like, I think I want to do it. I was like, great, do it. I'll do it with you. So, and I think that is only going to serve our business better because he's going to fully understand, having gone through that process, like why I'm the lunatic that I am, inside of our business, and why I expect. Because if you go through it, excuses are just excuses. You have your tolerance level goes significantly down for any kind of excuse. Because if I'm getting 2 workouts in a day, a gallon of water, I'm reading every single day, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, what's your excuse?
Right.
And I've got all these other responsibilities as a parent. I'm running multiple businesses, and I'm still getting the work done. So company culture is an easy thing to put down and say, all right, this is the culture that I want. It's difficult to build, and it's also difficult to keep if you don't, like you did, eliminate the people that are pushing back against the culture that you want for your company.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what's funny about that is they actually got rid of themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally just decided, like, I don't like this. I don't want to be a part of this. And it was all because it went from being lackadaisical, let's all have a good time. Yeah, we were making money, but it was the culture wasn't what I would go to you and say, hey, this is the culture of Titanium Investments.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, again, I was just lying to myself and lying to people like you. And so when we made the change, it was they eliminated themselves. They didn't want to be a part of that growth. And so I will forever be in debt to you for making that change for us. And it's funny how that works, right? Like somebody else, you listen to a podcast and then, it changes your life and then you share it out there. That's why I bring this up. For anybody that's listening right now, you might be listening to this and going, okay, so RJ, you're talking about something that another guy on a different podcast talks about. Well, hey, it changed Ben's life, and in turn, it changed the whole course of our company. That's why I'm bringing this up. It's important to understand that this personal development and holding yourself accountable and changing your culture of your company is very important if it's not where you want to be today. So that's why I brought this up. So moving away from that and going back to your current company, you talk about your team. What does the team look like today? And talk about the amount of transactions that you are doing with that team.
Yeah, so it started out just me and my partner. little one room office. And then over the last 2 years, we have 3 salespeople now, a virtual assistant, and then we just this year, or in 2019, hired an operations manager, which is the greatest thing I ever did. It's taken so much off of my plate to become more of a visionary as opposed to the person that's just trying to implement everything. And wow, what an impact. I mean, I know a lot of people when they get started in real estate, they say the first hire you should make is an assistant because they can help you clear up a lot of time in your day. Man, that's no bullshit. I mean, if you can hire somebody that can run your organization for you, they understand your vision and where you want to go. It's the greatest thing you can do. Like it costs money, but you can't look at it from the cost in terms of, the freedom of time it creates to bring in more revenue and do the things we do is tremendous. So, but over the last 2 years, I think we've, done about close to 400 deals. So it's
and those are across the country, right?
Yeah, from Texas to the East Coast, pretty much. But I mean, it's funny. You think about what your expectations are when you start a business, right? You're like, okay, if I could do 5 deals a month as a wholesaler, I'm going to be doing good, And then you do 5, and you're like, well, damn, maybe that's not really my potential, And then you grow it, grow it, grow it. So I think that's constantly what I'm chasing is just saying, all right, what is our potential? What can we actually do? Because I don't want to leave it on the table. That's like my biggest fear. I used to fear death, just dying. And now I think more than death, I fear like, all right, the example that I lead to my daughter is like, did I give it everything? And she can look at it and say, all right, that's the kind of person I want to become.
So when you talk about doing 400 deals, how many of those, because y'all are owner financing some of those yourselves, right?
Yes.
So how many of those are just regular dispositions, aka wholesales, I guess is the best way to describe it for you guys compared to owner finances?
Yeah. So the first 18 months, it was about 50-50. So last year that changed. It went to about 70% cash deals and 30% owner finance. So, which was kind of surprising to me because I thought, all right, maybe with the tax law change, people are going to get more money back and they'll have more money to put down to buy a house. But the cash sales have been feverish, so that it just continues to drive. And that might just be a timing issue where they're not on the market long enough for somebody to come along and say, I want to buy this on an owner finance deal.
So do y'all open it up where you get to choose like, hey, here's the cash price and here's the owner finance price and these are the terms?
Yes, exactly. So we market it both ways. So whenever we get a deal, it's marketed both ways, and then whatever the market brings us is what we'll do. So we have private money people, and they understand the concept, and they're good with either. Whatever is going to be a good deal, they're willing to do.
So for all of my listeners right now that are listening to this, and they're wanting to get into long-term investments, rental properties, things along those lines, are you the kind of company that they should reach out to and look to buy something owner finance and then turn around and make it into a rental property?
Yeah, we have investors doing that now. So, we don't just owner finance to people that are going to occupy the property. So we've had, this is actually probably one of the things I'm the most proud of is we've started investors off that were just at that point, they want to do it. They just don't have maybe everything together in order to be able to do it. So us offering owner financing gives them a foot in the door to where they're, we can essentially be the private money lender to them. And now I've got several investors. I got a couple in Detroit and a couple in Indiana that started that way, and they've done multiple deals with us now. They've got rentals for themselves. They're building their own wealth from it. They've flipped deals. So yeah, it just depends on, to answer your question, it depends on where you're looking and what kind of investor you want to be. But for sure, I mean, there's always deals. It's just a matter of what's for someone.
And you have some very affordable deals as well because you are buying them from the banks, extremely discounted. And then also you're in some of the markets in the Midwest, very low entry price points that they could come in. What's a typical down payment that you guys are looking for? Is it 10, 20, 30%? What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, we shoot for a minimum of 10%. Obviously, if we can get more, we get more. It strengthens the value of the note. But our average acquisition price, is about $8,000.
Wow.
What we're able to do is, if we owner finance the deal, we could do 2.5 to 3 times that, right? So if I buy a deal for 50,000, it's very difficult for me to do 2.5 to 3 times,
right.
That. So these are kind of that sweet spot, and the average term will be, I think it's about 7 years on that note in order for them to pay it off. So yeah, I mean, it's a fun business. It's just a game.
What are you doing with the notes after you create them? Are you selling them or are you holding them?
We've just started doing that. We started doing some partials. So we've gotten, some good seasoning on a good chunk of our notes. So, and that's the most fun part of the note business. And it creates opportunities because you can liquidate without liquidating.
Right.
So partial, so you can get a money grab up front, and that faucet will turn on later to redistribute the cash flow down the road. So we're just now starting to do that. But for us, our end game was always about the cash flow. It was saying, okay, let's build this up so that we've got the financial freedom that we want. And, within a year, we had 6 figures of cash flow. It's crazy how quickly it went.
Do you ever see yourselves, because your end game is cash flow, do you ever see yourselves going away where you say, I won't sell a property cash, I'll only owner finance it?
No, I don't think it's wise to pigeonhole yourself into one particular thing. Odell said something to me that it took me a while to learn in the beginning, was like, you don't go broke making $1. Like, that seems so simple, right? But it's
right.
Like, you don't go broke making $1. And there were times where the first couple of properties I bought just myself, just to kind of like learn the business, I held out for more money when it would have been profitable. I could have just said, hey, I'll take it and move on and buy another deal. I just didn't know that there were always going to be a lot more deals to choose from. I was in a shortage mindset, not abundance. So, that was a valuable lesson I had to learn in the beginning. But yeah, I don't think I'd just pigeonhole myself into one particular thing. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is a great deal for me and we make money on it, great. That's fine. There's going to be more deals.
So there's a lot of discussion about where we are in the market cycle. Are we starting to downturn? Is it starting to go down? Considering the fact that you're buying from banks, are you seeing an increase in volume of properties for you to purchase?
We have not seen an increase. In fact, it's gotten a little bit tighter probably over the last 6 to 8 months. So the volume of deals available has shrunk a little bit. Now, that being said,
what do you think that's saying about the market?
That people are eating up the deals. I mean, so there's just not a lot of deals to be had. So it's still a seller's market in terms of people wanting to buy stuff. So yeah, I've not seen that shift yet. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't foreclosures that haven't hit the market yet. I mean, there's still certainly those, but I don't think you and I will ever see it like it was, 5-7 years ago.
Agreed. Agreed.
But yeah, for this market and what we do, it's shrunk up a little bit, which is, why we continue to not only focus on one thing, and we try to diversify a little bit. So
do you guys only focus on a certain price point, or do you any price point that's available?
Yeah, anything that's a deal, we'll look at. So,
Gotcha.
But for us, I mean, we are kind of spoiled in that, in what we're able to get at price points, So when I look at a lot of deals, I'm like, I am kind of jaded, I think, sometimes when I look at a deal. A wholesaler sends me something, I'm like, man, it's just, 70% of ARV, I can't get that excited about it.
Right.
So, but
it was funny because I sent you a portfolio at one point in time, and you looked at it, and you broke it down, and it was interesting just to see the deals that you did pick and the deals that you kind of passed over. And I sat there for a while and just kind of looked at it, and I was like, it's so interesting to see how you analyzed your business and what you were willing to take on and what you weren't. And it's incredible. I think you're the first guest that's come on here. I've had some people in the Midwest, but you're definitely the first person that said that your average price for acquisitions is $8,000. I mean, that is an astonishing number. So moving away from that, I know you've got a new exciting venture that you're a part of. So why don't you tell everybody what that is?
Yeah. So I got, like I told you, we used to go to these conferences where I would learn, just sit in the back of the room and absorb as much as I could. And the one that I went to where I got the most value was Noteworthy. So the Noteworthy Investor Summit, the Noteworthy Convention, they have a couple of different events. And it's weird how things work. I, had been putting out what I've been doing, in terms of personal development, 75 Hard. I got a phone call one day from the owner of Noteworthy. He says, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking of selling the company. You're the only person I thought of in terms of getting involved." And it was a natural fit for us. And by the way, they remained on because they said, "There's no way I'm doing this without you. I mean, you bring too much to the table, and
right.
I think you do some really interesting things with it." And I also looked at it and said, "You know what? I'm tired of going to these real estate events where it's hey, if you rush to the back of the room now, you can get this today's only price of $10,000 and blah blah blah." So I said, I don't want to be involved in any of that. Like, I just really want to provide straight up value, have people come out, they actually teach something that somebody could go home and learn, just the same value that I got out of it, because that's all I did. I went home and I took action. Most people don't do that, but if they come in and get value and say, okay, if you go do ABC, you're going to get XYZ, but you got to do the work first. That's the kind of organization I wanted to be a part of. So we bought into the Noteworthy Conference, and it's twofold. One, because I want to give back, and two, because it's a good fit for our business. I'll have another distribution model for our notes. I'll have an opportunity to network with people that are in that business, are looking for inventory, that maybe want to get involved in the owner finance piece that we do. So it is somewhat self-serving, but I didn't want it to be a hugely profitable business from the sale of education and all that stuff. I really wanted to just say, all right, this part is going to benefit us, and this part is going to benefit the public, to where we can teach them to do what we do. Or, we can have somebody that comes in, they know about multifamily syndication, come in and learn how to get involved in multifamily. I don't have a part of it. You just do what you want to do.
Right.
Or if you want to buy wholesale deals, come in and learn how to partner up with wholesalers so you can find the deals that you're looking for across the country, and you can turn them into owner finance. So, yeah, so that the Noteworthy convention was a big thing I wanted to get involved with, and I'm super excited about it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
So how often are they? What does it look like? Is it a mastermind, or is it just a one-time conference?
Yes, it's not a mastermind like with us for Investor Fuel. We're going to have different people within the industry come in and speak, people that are actually successful and do well at it,
right?
Which happens at masterminds, obviously. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But this is, our first event is coming up at the end of February. It's in California and Anaheim. And then we're going to probably do one in Orlando, close to where I'm at here in Florida, and then maybe one in Vegas in the fall.
Gotcha. And how much does it cost to go to? Well, actually, you have a special gift for our listeners, right? They're going to get a link on this.
I do, yes. So if you check the show notes, there's going to be a link in there for you, and I'll put in a promo code as well, so they can get $250 off our ticket. So it's just notetools.com/titanium.
Awesome. Well, definitely check that out, guys, because like I said at the beginning, and I've said throughout, Ben is one of these guys that I highly respect. Every time I speak to you, Ben, man, you blow my mind. You're just, I mean, you're one of those guys that I look at. I respect so much how you carry yourself and how much hard work you put on into yourself and growing and developing. And you brought up a great point about education there that I want to go back and touch on, because there is a negative connotation around real estate investing and education. rightfully so, for some of these, go to the back of the room, max out your credit cards. Here, we'll show you how to get a credit card and put $50,000 on it.
Exactly.
I disagree with that tactic.
Yes.
But for some of us, because real estate investing changed our lives. Ben, how long ago did you start?
I've been in real estate investing since 2006. Got wiped out in the recession and then started again about 6 years ago.
So there you go. I will say I've been full-time 5 years as of January 1st. Been back in the game for 6 years. This changed our lives. And it changed the course of our family trees. And every day we go to work to continue to create generational wealth for our families, right? And also be great examples for our children. And at some point in time, you realize that you have the opportunity to share some of that knowledge with other people, make a difference in their lives, and yes, also do business with those people. There becomes a point in time where it's like, I have enough knowledge that I can share that with people, and I can in turn do more business with more people.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's literally the definition of a reciprocal relationship. And that is really one of the strongest foundations of real estate investing, is building reciprocal relationships. And so, like, full transparency, I love doing business with other people. I tried to do business with Ben, and I totally messed it up. And I will forever, be upset about that, because relationships are so important to me. Ben and I talked about it at Investor Fuel for hours on end. And it's one of those things. So I love what you're doing with Noteworthy, man. We're doing the same thing with Next Level Flipping, getting out there and just helping people. And every day it's like people are posting in our group about, hey, I'm trying to do this deal, or I'm trying to, maybe it's wholesale, maybe it's multifamily, maybe it's a flip. Who knows what it is, but we have the knowledge, or we have people in the group that we can literally just tag and they help each other. And so that's the power of masterminds. That's the power of conferences. So I'm super excited for you and your partners with Noteworthy. I'll definitely have to check it out myself, because we do a lot of owner financing ourselves, and I have a ton to learn in that space, because we're babies in it. So Ben, thank you so much for taking the time today. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we sign off?
Pleasure is mine, man. I just say you closed it up perfectly. Relationships are so key. And I'll just say, man, look, you have this idea like I messed it up. I messed it up. Listen, if you and I didn't have a relationship, then it could be looked at like that. But when you have a good relationship with somebody, even if you perceive that you screwed it up or did something wrong, that relationship is going to endure. And that's why these circles inside of real estate are so tight knit, because if you form a solid relationship, it can take you to a whole new level. Even if it doesn't work out in the beginning, there's no telling where it's going to go, because you keep it positive and you keep it moving forward.
Hey man, I appreciate that. But one of my quirks that I have to get over is I'm a perfectionist. I keep sharing little nuggets about being a podcast host, so I'll share another one. For anyone out there that's ever listened to one of my episodes, if you've ever heard me stutter at any point in time, or say anything like that, I literally beat myself up for the rest of the day. So I don't edit these episodes at all, and I pride myself on that. I want to keep it very organic, and so I'm just a perfectionist, man. That's all it is. So that's why I give myself a hard time about that deal.
But keep going, man. You're doing awesome.
All right. For everyone that's listening, if you're on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. If you want to give a 4 or below star rating, give it to someone else, not me. I only accept 5-star ratings. And on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That's our show for this week. We'll see y'all soon. Thank you.